Live. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're really excited to have you, and I hope everyone's had a really great start to 2022. I was only thinking to myself this morning, are we now closer to Valentine's Day than we are to the new year? Either way, it just seems like this year is absolutely flying by. But nevertheless, I hope everyone's had a really positive start to 2022. So you join us this afternoon where we're going to be discussing e-commerce marketing trends for 2022, sorting the fluff from the substance. Now, this is off the back of an ebook that we published in November, where we had some fantastic contributors. Some of them are actually joining us this afternoon on the panel. So we're going to be hearing from them shortly, where I'll introduce them. So they're going to be discussing things that you really need to be looking out for, probably things that you need to be keeping an eye on, and some areas that we can probably ignore. So just before I introduce our expert panel, a little bit of housekeeping, just so that we can keep this as interactive and engaging as possible. So you may have all spotted on the right-hand side there, we've got a chat window, a question window, sit the teeth in, and a poll window as well. So please do interact with the poll. Do cast your vote. We will be sharing the findings of the poll towards the end of the webinar. And similarly with the chat window as well, pop as many questions in there as you like. Anything relevant to this particular topic would be fantastic. And feel free to direct it to some of our expert panelists as well to get their particular insight. So with that, let me dive on into and introduce the panel that I'm joined with this afternoon. So I'm going to go around to everyone individually to get them to do a little bit of an intro on themselves, their role, their company, but also to pick something positive that's come out of the pandemic, to kind of share those good vibes for a Thursday afternoon. So let me kick off then. I'm James Owen, Partnerships Manager at Fresh Relevance. I've been here just over 5.5 months now. And if you're unfamiliar with Fresh Relevance, we are a cross-channel personalization and optimization platform. So there was a lot of isation words in that sentence. In essence, we provide really unique and interesting digital experiences across web and email to keep the content as exciting and as engaging as possible. Something positive about the pandemic, it's got to be buying my first house that I've worked towards for quite a few years. And in true pandemic style, the day before I could collect my keys, I contracted COVID. So that delayed for 10 days. So that was a brilliant start. But yeah, enough of me because I'm getting sick of hearing my own voice now. Let's hear from some of our panelists, and let's kick off with Gavin.
Hi, I'm Gavin Lojany, Global Head of Content at Digital. If you don't know who Digital are, we are a marketing automation platform designed really to make your lives easier. You know, managing your data and contacting your clients and prospects on the channels that mean something to them. Something positive that's come out of the pandemic. I'm going to say two things. I'll cheat. Working from home and the birth of my son. So, you know, they tie in together. So, you know, working from home, I'm able to be around when he's here, although he's not here at the moment. He's out enjoying life. But I'm here talking with you guys. So that's a positive.
Brilliant. Thank you, Cameron. Did you want to pick on someone else to go next?
Oh, he knows I'm going to pick on him. Philip, you're next.
Cheers, Gav. My name's Philip Story. I'm the founder and CEO of Enchant. We're an email marketing agency based in London, although since the pandemic, based in Hertfordshire and other counties and countries. We help brands to get email right, whether it's strategy or design or execution or automation, whatever it might be with regards to email. That's what we do. We help our clients to improve their email marketing. I've picked a really boring thing to say about the benefits of the pandemic. I think from a marketer's perspective, it's just the opportunity to just completely unplug from industry benchmarks, which I've been dying to do for a long time. So yeah, there's no normal landscape for benchmarks anymore. Everything's changed. So work out your own ones, right? So that's my positive.
Brilliant. Thank you, Phil. And did you want to pick on someone else?
I'm going to go with Zachary.
Oh, thank you, mate. I'm Zach Priest. I'm a marketing operations lead at Loyalty Line. Loyalty Line is a loyalty and engagement platform for e-commerce merchants. So we help e-commerce merchants build really strong relationships with their customers through encouraging them to and rewarding them for loyalty building behaviors. Positive to come out of the pandemic. Coffee's much better at home than it is in the office. So maybe that's because I'm making it. So yeah, no more, not to say that the coffee's horrible in the office, but it's much more delicious and filled with love at home. So definitely that. Ite, I think that leaves you.
Thank you, Zachary. Hi, everyone. My name is Ite Wlodomierski from Yotpo. I've been with the company for about 6 years. If you don't know much about Yotpo, so Yotpo is an e-commerce marketing platform that essentially consolidates multiple marketing solutions on the one platform. So we have reviews, visual user-generated content, loyalty referrals, as well as SMS marketing under one platform, essentially trying to help brands create a more cohesive customer journey, customer experience. The best thing that ever happened in the past 2 years or so. So I actually moved it from Tel Aviv to London. As you can hear by my accent, I'm not grown in the UK. So I actually moved it from Tel Aviv to London about 2.5 years ago, 6 months after COVID started. You know, in the startup scene, we all work very hard. So definitely kind of being at home with my kids for dinner and bath was great for the first year. Now, you know, it's like my wife is slightly too comfortable knocking on my door, like throwing the baby in my lap and saying, "It's your go," while I'm on a call. So if you see a baby coming in, that's life at the Vlados. But yeah, super happy to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, gents. I always think that's the hardest thing, isn't it? Where you've got to try and talk about what you do for a living and explain your job. So now we've got that out of the way, I'll stop sharing my screen. We can all see each other's heads there. So let's kick on then and look into why we're all here today to discuss the specific trends that we've kind of identified then for this upcoming 2022. Now, to kick off, something that we found, a really important bit of research that Enchant compiled, it showed that 95% of consumers are making significant and lasting changes to how they live. So work and shop because of the pandemic. Retailers, we think, probably need to regularly adapt to capture this changing market to add value. So what are the trends our panelists are seeing at the moment then? So let me just have a little thing. Let's start with .digital then. So the topic I've got here for you, Gav, was brands will have to go the extra mile to retain customers. Let's start with you and kick off.
Yeah, I think, you know, retention, it's a weird one because retention is always the name of the game. You always want to retain your customers. But I think because of the pandemic, you know, brands haven't been able to market in the ways that they wanted to, you know, doing fewer and fewer in-person events, you know, using less and less sort of outside advertising, etc. So we found a lot of people have gone online and they're adapting the tactics that I guess we all have been talking about for years. And that has just made the landscape even more competitive. So you have to go the extra mile, and just, you know, the regular tactics of retaining customers are a bit old hat. So you need to go deeper. And I think what brand buyers are looking for from their brands is to connect with them a little bit more. And to align their sort of their own sort of feelings and sentiments about life in general with the brands that they buy from. And we see this a lot. So empathy is definitely something that I think we need to be adopting. We need to be thinking about the value exchange as well. So what we do to go that extra mile, you know, far and further beyond than just the product itself. What differentiates you from everyone else? You know, what do you do as a business when no one's watching? You know, I know for us at .digital, we are very, very sort of keen on promoting our sort of social stance, and the fact that we are the world's, at the moment, the world's first carbon neutral marketing platform. So we fly that flag, and that's, you know, that differentiates us from the rest of the crowd, I guess. But that's what I think people are looking for. You know, what makes you stand out as an individual? Maybe it's down to the buying process as well on the website. You're not just driving people to purchase, but you're actually thinking about whether or not they need to make this purchase, or making the purchase process a lot easier. So that's what I'm saying about going the extra mile. It covers a number of things. I'm probably cheating when I say that as well, but there you go.
No, that's brilliant, Gav. No, I really appreciate you sharing the insight. Is there a particular one thing that you might say to a business to focus on?
Yeah, I think it's the story of you as a business. That is your differentiating sort of piece. You know, you can offer discounts and bits and pieces, and I'm sure Zachary will say that discounts probably aren't the way to go. So, you know, what does differentiate you? It's the story about you as a business, and that's what people buy into. So I think, you know, thinking about that company story you have, and taking your customers on that journey along with you, and that will in turn help to keep a bond and help you to retain them.
No, I really like that, Gav, because we've all lost the human connection of going into a store, looking someone in the eyes and having a little chat and them helping you out. It's obviously all moved online.
Exactly.
People doing grocery shopping for the first time, where you couldn't get a slot for love nor money, to people panic buying toilet rolls. It's just been a bit of a crazy old time. So I do think engaging with them, having that story, putting it at the heart of everything you do is definitely something to really focus on. So I appreciate that. And Zach, maybe over to you, as Gav was kind of teeing you up there with all things loyalty line. The kind of the trend that we've got for you here is just to discuss the power of loyalty in the kind of opt-out age. Yeah,
I mean, the opt-out age that's the big marketing trend, and I think the big merchants trend for us as well, and where customer loyalty fits in really nicely. You know, we've seen iOS updates cause like 96% of US users to opt out of app tracking, and customers are just far more aware of their digital rights. That's a good thing, but the kind of value that they're exchanging, and that's what Gavin touched on, that how can you make that value exchange really high value, and an exponentially more competitive market than before. You know, we've seen like spending on paid search increase by 30% plus over the last year. Brands are going to have to find really innovative ways to motivate customers to opt in and share their data. So obviously we believe loyalty programs are a great way to do that, to get customers to opt in, because you can give them rewards in return. You know, you can help them get closer to the brand, get closer to your values, share some values. One of our favorite clients, fashion brand Never Fully Dressed, has a pre-loved initiative where they encourage the customers to send back Never Fully Dressed items that they've pre-loved, they've worn and no longer useful to them, or they've grown out of, the style doesn't match them anymore, or they're just not in love with them anymore. So by encouraging those customers to bring those back to Never Fully Dressed, and they reward them with loyalty points, there's a nice value exchange between the brand and the customer, but they're also interacting on a personal value level for their customers too, because those clothes aren't going to landfill, they're not going to waste. It gives an opportunity to the customer to take them outside of like fast fashion and engage with the brand on a completely different level. So yeah, we think that those kinds of initiatives to get people to, you know, opt in via something like a loyalty program or similar things, is we'll see way more of that in 2022.
No, that's brilliant. I think you both kind of mentioned sustainability there in one way or another. I'm sure we're going to discuss that a little bit more. It's nice to see an initiative. I love that name, Never Fully Dressed. That is so cool. But everyone listening to this has Googled it, haven't they, in the background to find out exactly what they do. But it's so true, talking about data. It is a new currency in a way. And I think consumers, to part with their data, they're realizing the true value, because people having thoughts and seeing adverts for those thoughts in their head on Facebook, and they're like, whoa, hang on a minute, this is getting scary now. So I think if we are providing a bit of value for said data, it goes the extra way and ties really nicely into all the work you guys are doing at Loyalty Line. Now, when we're kind of talking about different channels in which to contact, it'd probably be quite good to bring in Yotpo now and to discuss your particular trend, which is the rise of SMS marketing. I know it's something we're looking into here at Fresh, so yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I think what I'm about to say is 100% in line with what Zach and Gavin were talking about, kind of retention, segmentation. How can we identify who are our kind of client that will stay with us for a very long time, right? We all know that, we're all marketers. We all know that cost per acquisition is much, much higher than cost of retention. So the question is definitely now in the age of like the cookieless era, meaning it's much harder to get like third-party data. How can we identify who are our most loyal customers? How can we know more about them willingly? Obviously, GDPR, they all have to opt in to give us this information. And then once I have this information, how can I communicate with them? And I think SMS marketing presents something super interesting here. And I'm sure that Gavin will agree as Digital kind of to do a lot with SMS marketing as well. So one stat you need to know about SMS marketing, I think it's enough. Over 90% of SMS are open within the first three minutes, okay? So when you have open rate, you get to like 95% and above. So that means that compared to email, which is a more kind of organic, mature, I would say legacy type of marketing automation channel, this presents something super interesting. So not only does SMS marketing allows you to have like a dual conversation with the client. I'm not sure when was the last time you actually responded to an email you got from your favorite brand. So for example, James, if you get an SMS from Never Fully Dressed asking you, are you what's your favorite outfit? Is it a dress? Is it like maybe a bathing suit? You say bathing suit. So we can ask, is it a full bathing suit or is it a bikini? And then if you say a bikini, and then you can understand kind of the rationale, you can go on and on and on. And basically you can have very specific information about the preference of your audience and then market them in a very specific way. So that's why we see a serious uptick in SMS marketing. So in the past 2 years, and we've actually acquired an existing company by the name of SMS Bump in the Shopify ecosystem. So we have clients that have been with us for about 5 or 6 years. So even if you take the cohort of our existing clients, and that's mainly in the US and Australia, where kind of SMS is a more adopted marketing channel. We see also in Europe, places like France, for example, adopting it as well. In the UK, not so much. By the way, my kind of projection is that 2022 is going to be the year of SMS marketing in the UK, and let's see if I'm right by the end of this year. But we can see that from the cohort of our existing partners alone, we saw an uptick of about 300% in usage of those exact brands. So even brands that used SMS in the past saw kind of COVID as an opportunity to now even engage further with their audience because we don't have this like install connection. We have more time. People spend a lot of more, even it's sad, but it's true. People even spend more time with their kind of phone in their hands. So it becomes a really great channel for us. So yeah, we definitely experience a lot of great stuff, and we have some pretty cool initiative about SMS marketing specifically. So.
Well, we heard it here first, people. According to Ite, SMS is going to be the next big thing in the UK. And
I would agree with that as well. We've been flying the flag for SMS for a while, and it's only been within the last few months or so that you've seen the uptake sort of soar. And just one point about Ite, you're saying that people don't reply on SMS on email. Sorry, it's because we don't encourage it. It is a two-way communication tool. I think if we encouraged it more people would do it. And I'll shut up now.
No, that's brilliant shit. I mean, the statistic that you shared actually almost scared me in a way, where you said that 90% of people open up the message within 3 minutes. It just goes to show that phone is strapped to us, isn't it? Pretty much at all times. And great point, Gab, about provoking the response. If we can do that on SMS, we can open up this channel. It can be really exciting. And with that, it ties in quite nicely to Mr. Story from All Things Email. So obviously, the point that we'd love you to expand on, Phil, is just with regards to kind of email automation will become the primary revenue driver for retail marketeers.
Definitely. I think just listening to Ite speak there and Gav's comments around it being a two-way channel literally took the words out of my mouth. I think it takes time to think about what you want to ask and what you want to actually, really find out and from prospects and customers to move that conversation along. There's so much information that happens when you just send out regular campaigns that gets lost in terms of what people do and don't do. And that's the first invitation really to start a dialogue. And I'm really curious, going back to the sort of SMS topic around how email and SMS will sort of play together. Starting to see brands thinking about both of them and, sort of in-app notifications, in-app kind of experience, kind of all kind of being overlaid now. But if you go back 2 years and you think almost just before COVID hit, and you think about kind of how you might plan email campaigns, or how your marketing team or marketing manager might think about email, it was generally all focused around kind of the campaigns that day, or if you're lucky that week, or if you're really lucky, maybe the week after. It was kind of last minute. It's all about campaigns. And most brands, especially in the retail space, probably had a handful of automations in place. You know, they're doing okay. They're bringing in some revenue. They're maybe there's a role there in terms of retention. Just thinking about what Gav was saying at the beginning there. But broadly, most marketers were just scratching the surface. What I think we've seen in 2021 is a massive change in really the attitudes and kind of beliefs around the power of automation. So we're seeing now CEOs turning up to planning meetings around automated experiences at different parts of the customer lifecycle. So it's not just all acquisition, it could be retention, it could be, you know, the experience phase where really the product and the experience of the product and marketing become the same thing. There's definitely, you know, they work together. And I think that's really, really important. So we're seeing more CMOs, even founders turning up to these sessions and being interested, mainly because they know now that it's really lucrative and they want to be present across the whole customer life cycle. And I think when we look at kind of the spend, our budgets, our clients' budgets and the spend that they had on automation in, say, Q4, I'd say if you put Black Friday aside, about 80% of the budget has gone on automation. And I think this year is the year where brands who have got massive opportunities to be really present with automated email marketing, this is the year where it's really going to happen. And I'm really, really excited about it. I think it's a really interesting time for email automation.
Oh, definitely. And like you say, I'm really curious to see how email and SMS plays nicely together. It's going to all tie in nicely to the automation argument. And I'm sure we've all read every year for the last few years, email is dead. It certainly isn't. It is alive and it's kicking. It's just you need to use it in the correct ways, basically.
Well, I mean, that correct way thing is the thing that keeps getting me, because like I think about like my engagements with a brand like Airbnb, and I get the in-app notification, I get an SMS, and I get an email for exactly the same thing. Like automation done so badly. Sorry if Airbnb's anybody's client on this call, or if they're listening in. But if they are, I tell you what, I don't need that same notification 3 times on my private device. That is just too much. And so, Philip, you know, the idea of that omni-channel approach to automation and actually thinking about them not as just like individual channels that, oh, we're just going to make broadcast essentially, actually having that feedback and say, oh, they opened it there. Maybe we don't need to send the other things in the next 5 minutes. So hopefully we will see some development there.
Big time. It's one experience, right? And we can't be thinking about them as linear channels or kind of, like you say, broadcasting. We've got to be listening to how people respond. And if you just simple rules, if somebody's seen the notification, we don't need to send all the other stuff. Or better still, asking people, how would you prefer, you know, how do you want to be notified about bookings or, you know, kind of alerts, things like that. So yeah, I totally agree.
Genius. Asking people. Oh,
literally.
Yeah.
That's cheating. You're not allowed to ask.
Yeah, that is the key, and it's funny that it's even a factor that we are wondering how email and SMS should be playing. I guess we probably know, as you know, the experts, but I guess it's explaining that to the actual users of these channels as well, that there is a way that they can both play together quite nicely, and in fact they can complement each other. You know, if you want to drive someone to an email, which, you know, it might be odd if you want to do that, but if you want to drive someone to an email, you've heard it's a stat, you can use the SMS to do so, or to drive them through to the website, or to remind them that there's an email sitting, you know, in your inbox, and there's a lot of information in that you know is relevant to you. So there are definite ways of making them work and complement each other. We just have to be speaking to the right people. And Zach, if Airbnb are listening, the right people are on this call to help them. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, if you are, just drop us a little question. B&B will help you out. Yeah, no, awesome. No, that's great. Well, there's one last little trend I want to share, and it's from Tom Rickards, who's the head of partnerships here at Fresh Relevance. So he contributed to the ebook, and his specific trend that he was kind of looking at that we should be focusing on is with regard to looking at alternatives to the sort of standard A/B split testing. So historically, the mistake that a lot of people have made when using sort of Fresh Relevance is they can set up a couple of different campaigns, let it run, and then over time they look at the results and they're just not up to scratch, and they think they'll just return good results forever, but it's not that easy. So looking at kind of constantly evolving and tweaking this is how you can get the most ROI possible. So the standard thing that everyone's always familiar with is A/B testing, a bit of split testing, but that approach can have a couple of downsides. So firstly, you obviously need to plan out the test. You need to think about the hypothesis, what you're looking to actually try and achieve, and then the results that you want to see. That then takes time to actually run it, and then half the time you might not even get significant winners either way. So there are quite a lot of factors at play to make it successful, and one more than the other, and it could be quite difficult to actually prove anything at the end of it, so you can kind of waste your time. So Tom was going on to say that the trend that he's seeing is a lot of people are looking to alternatives to your standard A/B split test. An automatic optimization allows you to kind of dynamically allocate traffic to multiple content variations that meet the predefined goals. So if you were looking to increase average order value, conversion rates, ID rates, it can then all do this within real time while allocating less and less traffic to underperforming variants. So the test is always ongoing, it evolves over time, and importantly, it's kind of got your back. It gives the marketers peace of mind that the assets that shoppers are expected to see are the ones most likely to resonate with them. We call it a multi-armed bandit, which I think is a bit of a unique term to us, but it's just a great way to look at this kind of, take the A/B split test to kind of the next level, really. So that's our kind of prediction from Fresh, that people are going to be looking above and beyond A/B split testing. Now, let's focus on the next segment, which is kind of trends to ignore. So this was one I was following with great interest to see what our fellow experts here on the panel were going to actually going to look to include. So there's some in here that's quite funny. The one that I've got to start with is Yotpo. It's a headless is not for everyone. I keep hearing about headless. I've had so many people explain it to me, and I keep nodding almost headlessly that I understand what it fully is, but I don't. So yeah, it'd be great if you could expand on that.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, I would say it's probably like the most unpopular opinion ever that headless is speaking to our agencies and speaking to merchants going direct to consumer. They think that like headless or PWA, that's the best next thing. This is what's going to make them like innovative. Basically, what it means is that you kind of decouple the front end from the back end. So historically, you're not tied into like the limitation that an e-commerce platform has with the way that they present the content. It's very it's oversimplifying what I'm saying, but essentially what it means is that the brands will have to invest, or the agency doing the implementation will have to invest a lot more resources in making sure that the site will go live as quickly as possible, especially and also to integrate third party into your tech stack. So I will say for a lot of bigger brands, more established brands, headless can be an amazing solution to have more kind of front-end flexibility, because you want the content to look in a specific way, or you want the checkout process to be in a kind of in a certain way. But for many brands, especially brands kind of only starting on kind of direct to consumer, only building themselves online, there's much more important things that they should do beforehand, before going to like the ins and outs of how can I improve my load speed and my site speed, because I want to kind of put myself up study on Google. So I would say for those kind of to brands that are fully optimized, they feel like they have their community, they have the kind of life cycle in place, they have their retention strategy in place, and it's all good. And they're now thinking about how can I optimize myself from being a 9 to being a 10. Yes, probably headless is a great approach and something that you can have some long-term wins. But if you're a fresh brand, straight out of kind of the bag, going back to consumer, in your first 1 to 3 years of your kind of life as a brand, there's definitely 100% better use for your money. And as Zachary will for sure agree with me, and Gavin, retention strategies are going to be probably the most significant return on your dollars. So it's not that headless is not important. And just there's probably more important initiatives that you should do before kind of looking into that.
So definitely fully use your head when looking into headless, and don't rush into it, because it can be great for brands and it can be detrimental to others. So I think that's what we've got to kind of look out for, but very much a controversial one to discuss, because that's all I've been seeing over my LinkedIn is headless is the next big thing. So that's some really great insight to share there.
I will say one more thing, that the average merchant is using anywhere between 12 and 15 marketing applications on their platform. Okay. Most platforms are not suitable for kind of headless out of the box. So that means that you have to kind of multiply the number of plugins that you have with kind of, with this headless project. So it can be a very deep rabbit hole, and maybe some of my agencies won't like me saying it, but obviously it's in many events it's good for agencies, but it means also agencies won't be able to kind of execute projects in the budget that they committed to the merchant. That's it.
No, that is brilliant. No, really appreciate that. It's definitely interesting focal point, the whole headless argument. So I've got to pick another one here, because this looks like a nice controversial one to bring up as well. We've got .digital here. So Gavin's saying, so any that don't work for you and your 2020 KPIs sounds like a cop-out answer, but I'll explain exactly why it's not.
It is a cop-out answer, but it's not. It really isn't, because really the reason I say this is, one, I love the ecosystem. I love, the email marketing world. It's my life. It's kept a roof over my head for a long time. But we've got a knack of just throwing out new acronyms and new buzzwords constantly. And what happens is marketers feel like they're a little bit inadequate, and then they should sort of keep up with things. And it's kind of like what Ite was saying with headless. And by the way, James, your joke was very good. I was going to add a bit of in there, but this is the problem. There are so many things that come up that make you feel like, oh, I need to be doing this or I need to be doing that, but I haven't quite got this basic stuff sorted yet. If these sort of buzzwords and bits and pieces aren't in line with your KPIs, ignore them. Some of these will be useful, and it's exactly what Ite was saying. Headless for the most part might not be for you, but for the brands that are in the right place for it, then it is for you. So it is a complete cop-out, what I'm saying, but horses for courses. And it's kind of like using automation, because certain messages you're sending to your audience aren't going to connect. They're not going to resonate. But by using automation correctly, using your data correctly, you get the right message for the right person at the right time. So let's just flip that on its head and use it for your marketing. Use the right, processes, the right buzzwords for your business at the particular time. And that's pretty much it.
No, I love that. The analogy horses for courses, being a gambling man, that's one I like to use probably far too much. And that's kind of ties into what we do at Fresh with personalized approach, because you can't really treat all your customers the same way and contact them the same way, marketing the same way. We're not, start trying to herd cats. We're not all the same. We think differently, we interact differently. And we need to really be thinking about that. And I love that you mentioned kind of acronyms, because looking at Philip's story here from Enchant, I've got AMP for email. It's an acronym I'm not familiar with, but I'm sure he'll expand on it.
I am loving this. Go, Phil. Go.
Come on, let's talk about it. AMP for email. I mean, it's really cool. Like, you can do fun stuff in email that's more interactive. Everyone's excited about it, but so much money is being thrown down the drain on it already, and time. And there's so many platforms that just can't support AMP. Recipients don't know how it works, so they expect the form is actually just a picture, so they don't use it. I'm not saying that it's not important, by the way. And I do think that it is important to kind of know what's going on around you, but it's really tempting in marketing to get caught up in the kind of imposter syndrome, even if you've been in the industry for years. Like, you can get really, you can feel inadequate, like, to use as Gavin's word, like, just because you're not utilizing the tools, it probably means you're doing a better job than those that are. And that's because you're being more diligent and you're spending your time and your money where the opportunities are, where the improved customer experience is, or where the revenue is. So most of us are targeted, especially in retail, with get me more new customers, get me more repeat purchases, get me better retention rates. use all your AMP time and all your budget on that. And that is going to go back to my trend for this year, which is automation.
There we go. Get a bit of AMP in your life.
I gotta say, I love AMP for what it can do, and if we look at email as a channel, it kind of stayed the same for a little while, and what AMP offers is something slightly different. But as Philip says, not all platforms are ready for it, and I don't think the audience is necessarily ready for it as well. And again, certain audiences might be, but for the most part, we offer it. But is it something that's going to change your marketing more over than getting your automation right? I don't think so.
We'll just have to see how this year plays out, basically. And let's hear from our man Zachary over at Loyalty Lion. So hard discounting versus community building.
Yeah, I mean, this is in that same vein of just don't do what everybody else is doing because they're all doing it. I think it's especially coming off the back of BFCM. It's in the rearview mirror, but it wasn't that long ago, and it feels like it's ages away. And that's kind of the big discounting event. Oh, fun slips of the tongue. The big discounting event of the year, one of them at least, and it does turn out to be a little bit of a race to the bottom. And we did some research last year looking at what customers thought about big discounting events, and they said that about 60% of consumers say that the discounts aren't as good as they expect them to be, and those same people said that they weren't on the things they wanted to buy anyway, the stuff that they would always come back to that merchant for. Is it on sale? And those people are becoming desensitized to discounting. And in fact, it's cheapening the brand in their mind. And a lot of these e-commerce merchants have in a fiercely competitive market kind of post or during COVID with a new e-commerce landscape is brand positioning. So if you are chasing all your competitors to the bottom with discounting instead of focusing on really interesting ways to build a nice, strong relationship with those customers and to make sure that you're looking after their experience, and maybe find some other ways to incentivize purchase that aren't specifically around discounting. Swap some things in that might be free shipping, bonus loyalty points. I love free or sample products as well, because it gives you an opportunity to get your customers trying something new, maybe move them into a new product category or get them buying something else, maybe lead them towards subscription, that kind of thing. And then, push down like the VIP experience route and look for exclusive access to new products, to sales. Give your community of insiders an opportunity to test product before they get to market, so they feel like they're impacting the brand. All of these things can be built on the back of these major sales events. That's not to say you shouldn't take part, but it's not like big discounting weekend. It's BFCM or it's Singles Day. These are opportunities for you to wade into that competitive space with something different. And it's something that's really looking after your customers. We've seen some of our merchants essentially shut their store down except for their loyalty program members. So make the store exclusive to their best customers over those big shopping periods as a way to make them feel really exclusive. So yeah, desensitize to discounting. You're cheapening your relationship with your customer, and they feel your brand's a bit cheaper in their minds, and they don't really get anything out of it. So yeah, try something different.
This is what I call the DFS sale syndrome, where you certainly see these emails going out every other week. We have 20% off, 30%. Yeah, but it's always on. Listen to the brand. That's one thing I hated in my sales career, when someone would speak to someone, I'm not interested now. Okay, would you like 40% off? It cheapens your brand. You would communicate them at this price point. They've expressed a little bit of interest and they've gone, we're not ready now. Instead of exploring a little bit more, it's, do you want loads of money off? It just lessens the brand, lessens the credibility. One brand I thought that did quite well with creating a VIP experience, Fairfax and Faber, the kind of country clothing brand at the moment that you may all be familiar with, stupidly spent a lot of money on my girlfriend for Christmas, and just on the run up to Christmas, I got an email that said, you have now been officially invited to our VIP discounting event. And I had to kind of enter a pretty unique code. And then luckily, I didn't see any of the things that I'd already just bought cheaper, but you kind of felt you joined this gated community of other people. And it did make me think, I might spend more money, but then luckily I didn't. But that's what it is. It's communicating with brands in the right way, basically. And following on a sort of similar vein of kind of creating this experience, what we've identified at Fresh is probably to ignore is the metaverse for this year. I think virtual reality and everything like that just isn't here. I've got some stats here that are quite funny. Everyone probably on this call has heard about Oculus for one way or another. The kind of virtual reality headsets that they are pretty cool. A mate of mine's got one. They are really good. But it might surprise you to hear that Facebook bought that technology 10 years ago. And I mean, I don't know any of my family members where Oculus was on their Christmas list or anything. It just hasn't really taken off. But I think this whole kind of virtual reality, this metaverse, just isn't there yet, basically. Horizon launched workrooms in 2021. So users in different geographical locations could join up in a virtual meeting space and work together, use little avatars in a 360-degree meeting room. I guess you're trying to reinvent the whole working from home, the whole 2D landscape, but maybe a bit gimmicky. The other thing that was quite interesting as well is Nike has filed trademark applications to make and sell virtual branded sneakers and apparel to protect their trademarks in this new era. They've even recruited for virtual design roles. It just is all seeming a little bit too advanced. We may have all watched Ready Player One, that film, which is pretty good, and you get a bit of an insight of maybe where it's going to go. But I think for now, for 2022, we've got other things to be focusing on, basically. Cool. So now moving on to the last little kind of topic to discuss, and then we'll finish with some cool questions that we've had dropping in. So everyone do remember to drop your questions in. We'll try and get through to as many as we can as possible. So we're now going to list some of the biggest challenges in 2022 and how to tackle it. So right in front of me here as it stood out, .digital, face-to-face event, yay or nay, meeting up in 3D. What are your thoughts, Gavin?
To make this really short, we're thinking yes, because we've got a little plug for us. We've got our summit coming in September. So yeah, plug for that. But I was going to say, in order to sort of figure all of this out, talking about the tactics that we've mentioned previously, is use your data and ask your audience. If you're thinking about doing a face-to-face event, then you surely have to ask the people that you're bringing to your event whether or not it would be a hit or not. So using your data and having a better understanding of your data so you can target the right people, maybe find them geographically as to where you're going to have that event, and find out whether or not they're happy to make the travel. We did an event last year and we had our sort of wristbands, red light, green light, amber light, whether or not you wanted to make contact, hug with people as you meet them. I think just those sorts of things is what you need to bear in mind, but also use the tools at your disposal to understand whether or not something like this is going to be a hit. But I think that's the challenge now this year, people wanting to reconnect and yeah, exactly, and connect in real life.
Yeah, exactly. I've just had a polite elbow, gentleman, from Elisa, who's running the chat, and got a couple of minutes left. So if I just quickly get everyone's kind of thoughts on these things, and then we'll try and answer a couple of the questions. So Enchant, attracting talent. I know we've been struggling. We're trying to find another one of me at Fresh. What are your sort of thoughts on that?
Can't find another one of you, James. I mean, come on.
There's one in the metaverse.
It's so hard to get to find good candidates at the moment. Like if you go back pre-COVID, people used to describe, the marketing kind of, recruitment scene as a candidates market. Like it's accelerated a lot since then. I see brands offering crazy benefits right now, in terms of massively not inflated salaries, the salaries that marketers deserve, to be honest, and actually giving people the rest that they deserve. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of brands competing, and actually letting marketers, letting your team work on their terms in the environment that supports their individual needs. And I think that's how you keep talent, but you've got to offer that up front, and brands have got to adapt, because this isn't going to get any easier. It's really, really hard to find great people, and if you want great people, you have to meet them where they're at. And we all know that we can talk about the tools and all the rest of it and all the strategy ideas, but actually you need the people that make it happen. It is the people. It's simple as that. And I think in order to, kind of retain that talent as well, it's not just sticking to the promises that you make, because let's be honest, we've all probably worked somewhere where something was promised to us in the interview or was in the spec, or, and it just never happened when you turned up. You've got to stick to those promises now. And I think you've got to be able to demonstrate as a brand ongoingly that you're really serious about what you do. And that is a place where that individual can accelerate their career and do some really interesting stuff. So yeah, talent, there's a massive gap. And I think that this is the biggest challenge of the year for sure.
Definitely. And there's been some wild basic salaries that get thrown around on LinkedIn for certain roles as well. It is a crazy old time to be kind of attracting and hiring talent. Well, Jen, just in the interests of time, because I think we've hit the end now, it'd be great to get some questions. So apologies, Ita and Zachary, for not coming through to your last couple of points. We might follow up in an email. So we were going to discuss community building from Loyalty Lion and the rise of different MarTech solutions as well out there and how data is being lost. But let's maybe jump into a couple of questions that we've got from the audience. We've had one here. I'll give you a go, Yotpo, as I waffle too much. We can't do your bit. But Ita, you mentioned SMS being the next big thing. Would you say this is more aimed at B2C? What would you suggest for B2B, kind of to adopt SMS? And that was from Olivia.
Yeah, really good question. I will say that even though the vast majority of our experience is indeed kind of direct to consumer and how to build those kind of personal interactions with our community, I do see the trend of, like, in the past, I would say 2 years, a lot of B2B are adopting a lot of B2C technology and tools. We saw it first in reviews 2 years ago. We didn't think that B2B care about asking their vendors about, their feedback, and then using that feedback, not just for internal purposes, but also as a way to kind of promote themselves in tools like, Google, or even ads with user-generated content. And we do see that there's a big group of our community that is using it for B2B purposes. So obviously, if you say kind of the average, the average communication messages between the brand and a member is about 5 to 8 messages per month. I would say in B2B, it's probably going to be lower. We have to understand SMS is not just for marketing purposes. It's also great for, like, transactional messages. And if you can combine the two, it's going to be extremely, extremely relevant for B2B as well.
Can I just jump in and say really quickly, and it might be an oversimplification, but I always think of things in this way. A B2B buyer is just a B2C buyer out of hours. And what we have to sort of remember in B2B marketing is that we are marketing to a business, yes, but within that business, we're marketing to an individual. So understanding that individual and what it is that would mean something to them in order for them to convert, that is what you need to sort of take hold of. And then you can apply the different tactics, as Ite was saying, that you would have in a B2C format and apply them in the B2B world. So SMS can be adapted in that way. You just need to know the individual you're marketing to and use that effectively throughout automation if needs be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people forget, even if you're contacting B2C, B2B, it's still a human being you're interacting with at the end of the day. And if the methods work for B2C, you might make the hypothesis that they could work for B2B. But again, it's just knowing your audience, knowing your data, and kind of tailoring it accordingly. And I think maybe a sort of a final question then that we can kind of finish up on. Let's have a little look in here. We've had a great few questions come through. So the ones we will get back to definitely on sort of after this one here. I've lost where I was going to be. Cool. So Benita's asked, how would you overcome poor quality, dirty data in the short term when you want to try and engage more with your customers? So long term, the work on improving the quality of data is being done in the background. So how do you kind of move towards maybe a cleaner data stream or more advanced data stream things? What's our sort of thoughts, gents?
I think a good place to start is pick something you know is emblematic of your customer base, or something you know is linked to success. Start with one and trace that back through your database. So get really focused on the people that matter and try to ignore the ones that as far as like prospecting goes, maybe not customers, don't want to ignore your customers, obviously, but as far as looking out to the market, try to find just a handful, one or two even, of those indicators that you can correlate to success, and just try to put the rest of the data in a second or third tier. And really rally around those key, a few of those key metrics. Something we're talking more and more about at Loyalty Line, and marketing ops guy here in our marketing team, is prescriptive metrics as opposed to descriptive metrics. So looking at things that will actually change your behavior and change what you go and do next, as opposed to just tell you a little bit about what happened in the past. So find the things that are going to change what you plan to do next. So yeah, find a couple of little gold standards, things that you're really sure of, and start there. And then you hopefully will find some links to some more clean data. Hopefully the clean will attract the clean.
Okay.
Awesome.
Can I jump in with something on that as well? I would say with this as well, we mentioned it earlier, is to ask your audience. Don't assume that you know exactly what is for sure. Ask your audience and continue to ask them as well. So if you're sending out emails, have an option for them to update their preferences along the way. And you want to be able to fuse your implicit and explicit data, stuff that for sure because they've told you, but also stuff that's been implied as well. So maybe their movement around your website, they're clicking on things. They haven't made a purchase yet, but they've clicked on several pages of your website, and they've lingered on pages a little bit more. When you fuse those two things together, you get a better understanding of the individual you're marketing to. And then further over and above that as well is having the right tools to do that. And don't want to be giving you a pitch here, but we have the right tools at .digital. So it's using the tools at your disposal to understand both the implicit and explicit data, builds up a better picture of the individual, what I like to call their digital body language, and it gives you the ability to clean up that dirty data that you have.
Digital body language, I'm writing that down.
Love that, yeah, and I love it.
I should trademark it, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Get the NFT.
Yeah, do a night, just trademark thin air. Why not? That sounds like the plan. But I've heard a couple of our panelists Google calendars bong, which means that they've got a 10-minute reminder for 3. So let's just kind of wrap it up there and draw this to the crows. And I'd just like to finish with our poll. So as you would have seen here, we've had a number of votes for our specific topics. And the topic that everyone thinks and agrees with that kind of resonated the most is brands will have to go the extra mile to retain customers. So 31% of us, 33% just gone up, which is great. 20% of people said email automation will be the primary revenue driver. And then we've kind of got some joint, it's going up all the time. God, they're loving a bit of brands will go the extra mile. We've hit up to 42% now, but it's great to see that we've had votes for all of them. So it just goes to show that we picked some really cool topics, gents. And with that, I'll just sort of finally share this particular slide here. He says, so this slide here is just how everyone on the call, just want to thank our expert panelists. I think it's been a really engaging panel. I've absolutely loved hosting it. So I really appreciate you all jumping on and sharing the insight here. As you can see, anyone that's on the webinar now, we've got their direct email addresses. So do drop them a line if there's any questions that didn't get answered. We'll try and get back to you all individually, but feel free to reach out and engage in conversations. And finally, in the just like a bit of .digital, bit of a plug here for our ebook that we're all discussing. So feel free to download it here, freshrelevance.com/trends /2022, and you can have a little look in there. But thanks so much, everyone, for your time and your attendance this afternoon. We really, really appreciate it. And we hope to see you on the next panel discussion soon. Thanks again, panelists.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye.